All righty. All right.
That's that song playing in my head.
Right.
It was a catchy song.
Right. One day we're gonna get that good intro music and be like,
right.
But right now we're just on the countdown. So, hey everybody, it's another Water Cooler Wednesday.
Hello.
Hey. So today, of course, I have my co-host Lisa, House Money Mama. Let's see,
no. There you go.
House Money Mama. I stopped pointing, so that I just thought I'd try it. And then we have a special guest today. We have Libby Popovich from Popovich Law, right?
Hello, guys.
Hey, Libby, it's always great for you to come visit us at the water cooler.
Oh, thank you. I love the water cooler. Wednesdays are fun.
So we've been taking everybody through the home buying process. And so we finally got to being under contract. So that's why you're here. So you're going to share some information about that. But before we start, I almost forgot. We do have a market update. And so, Lisa, what's happening with the market? What's happening?
Well, it's not really a market update, but it is something that's good and it's pertinent to people in real estate and for credit. So I saw an article, it actually was in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes as well. Billions of dollars of medical debt is going to be removed from your credit report. Well, I mean, if you have billions of dollars, I don't know if that's going to work if you just, individually. But
when is that
So what they're saying is that they're going to be taking off medical debt. So I know one of the things they said was that $500 or less, they're not even going to report it anymore.
Okay.
And that might not sound like a big deal, but actually that is a big deal because I've had customers where I'm like, look, this is a $83 medical bill. Can you just pay it? I know it's not yours, but can you just pay it? One, it'll be a collection off. And collections by themselves, Maurice will tell you, because he's been on a couple of times, so he can attest to this. Collections alone being removed can have a huge impact on your score. That, like, I've seen 80, 100 points just from one collection being removed. So that's a really big deal. The other thing is they are giving more time before they actually begin to report. So right now, after 6 months of trying to collect, they can start to report to the credit bureaus that you have, a collection account, defaulted account, whatever you want to call it. But now they're saying that they're going to increase that to 1 year. They have to wait 1 year before they can begin to report. So actually that gives people more time. It gives you more time to negotiate, it gives you more time to pay it off. It gives you more time to get in contact with the insurance company and let them know, hey, you all didn't pay this bill, whatever that might be. But I thought this is some really, really good news, and I wanted to be able to share it today with our listeners and viewers.
That is great.
So, Lisa, is the 1 year just for your medical? Is that they're extending 1 year for medical only, right?
This is all specific to medical bills. Yeah, medical collections. Yeah.
And when does that go into effect?
July 1st.
This July. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
So guys, if you're out there, hopefully if that medical bill is one of the things that's causing you an issue with your credit score, hopefully it'll go off sometime in July, and it might boost you up in order to be able to get qualified for a house. So,
and actually I would say that if you don't see some changes happen, dispute. Get in contact with the credit bureau or get in contact with whoever is reporting it and see what you can get removed, or talk to somebody who knows how to do it or whatever. But I would definitely say, because again, being a loan officer, I see it all the time.
Mhm.
So small bills, they might not, $83, $200. I've seen $50 medical bill collections on somebody's credit report,
Yeah.
dragging their score down 80, 90, 100 points. And
And
so,
you know what? Well, I mean, we don't want to get a soapbox on this, but one of the things that I would see is a lot of times that's because you're waiting on your insurance to
That's
pay it,
exactly it. Mhm.
right? And then they're like, "Oh, well, we sent it to collection." You're like, "But the insurance like hasn't paid it," and
Mhm.
so yeah, and it's not really you, but it is affecting you. So
mhm.
Right.
And just clarity, because Maurice just sent me a text message. He says the under 500 part starts in 2023, where they'll no longer report that, but the other stuff starts July.
Okay.
woo, see, Maurice,
Right.
Maurice.
Thanks, Maurice.
We
Right,
a team, y'all. Look, we work together.
right, right.
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you, Maurice. All right. So now, okay, we've done our contract. We've got our offer accepted.
Mhm.
We put in the work. So now we talked about this last week. Okay, so the things that I do next is I send it to Lisa to the lending side, and then I also send it to Libby and
Yes.
her team.
And that's when
Right,
we get involved.
right, and so a lot, some states don't require attorney. Where I don't know if Illinois is it
It's an attorney state. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's an attorney state.
I'd be out of
So
a
Like
job otherwise.
Indiana, I'm licensed in Indiana, and we don't usually deal with
They don't,
attorneys in
right. And I
Indiana.
live in Indiana. And
right,
yeah, they don't use attorneys for
yeah.
residential. Commercial they do, but not residential. Illinois is the opposite.
Yeah. So
Okay.
eventually I'm close, you guys. I'll be licensed in Indiana soon.
Oh,
But
good.
Okay.
I don't know, that I see all the things that Libby and their office do, and I see a benefit. So
Mhm.
I'm purchasing this big expense. Why do I need an attorney, Libby? Like,
All right. So most people don't want to talk to an attorney until they need to.
right,
But with, these are happy transactions. So we're here to
Yeah.
work as part of the team. We're not in court. This is not arbitration. It's not mediation. It's not necessarily, it's not adversarial. It's not meant to be. We're here on the transactional side to make sure that everything from contract to close goes the way it should. So we're here as part of this team once we get the contract to make sure all the deadlines are met, that all the documents are properly completed, that the title is clear. So when the new buyer is buying the house, the title is not going to have old mortgages on there, old debts on there, water liens, building liens, any of that stuff. So we make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted from the contract, from the time we get the contract all the way to when I see you at the closing. So I actually attend the closing. And one of the reasons Illinois is an attorney state, it creates a nice checks and balances. So Lisa's getting all the documents together. She's, getting all the documents from you. She's putting together the file. It goes to underwriting. But there's a lot of documents and there's a lot of finances that are going back and forth and a lot of numbers.
yeah,
So part of the reason that the system's created this way is so when you sit down at the closing, I'm here just to represent the buyer. We have attorney-client confidentiality. You can tell me whatever you need to tell me. I'm not going to share it with anyone, but it's one level of protection where I can sit down and say, okay, here's what you were told you need to sign, and here's the documents. This is the note. This is the mortgage. This is all your figures. You were told you needed to bring in 5,000 and you're bringing in a little less. So that's good. Versus back in the day, buyers would get to the closing and all of a sudden the numbers are different or they needed to bring extra in. So it's an extra checks and balances on both the industry as a whole, on lenders, and the whole process. Plus, it gives that buyer that one-on-one, just like you have with your agent, you have that with the attorney as well. So if there's any
Mhm.
issues getting to the closing, and sometimes there are,
yeah,
or if there's any issues right after the closing, and those we've seen quite a few with the pandemic, with moving and kind of coordinating everything, we're here to assist you. And we're part of that team to help you all the way through.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I know I see the importance of what Libby and them do in their office. A lot of times, you might have, we start out the process, and first thing is the home inspection, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's the very first thing.
right, so
Mhm.
you've done the home inspection, you found some issues, and we send those issues to the attorney's office, and Libby and them actually help with negotiating for some type of repairs or credit.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we get it, so when you do the inspection, as the buyer, you get a full inspection report of everything, pretty much almost everything and anything you need to know about the house.
Yeah.
However, when the contract is signed, one of the paragraphs in there specifically says that the buyer is only going to be asking for repairs or replacements for things that are called imminent mechanical, structural, or health and safety issues. So you're going to get a report, as you should, that might be 90, 100 pages. And that's super daunting. You might look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this house is falling apart. It's not. It's not. And
Right.
part of the benefit of working with the team and having the attorney on board is I've literally seen thousands and thousands of inspections. I've done thousands of closings, as has Lisa and Dion. So we've seen all the different variations. So I can look at the report and say, you know what? These are some of the minor things that you're going to get with any house. Let's look at the big issues that are in the contract. So we're looking for the big ticket items: mechanical, structural, health, and safety. Is your HVAC broken? That's something we would put, and we would negotiate for the seller to either repair it for you, replace it for you, or offer a closing cost credit. So we try to tailor it to the actual contract and to the big ticket items that you need. And
Yeah.
sometimes the seller will either repair it or they'll replace it, or they're just going to offer a closing cost credit right up front. Assuming you're not buying as is, they're going to say, here's a list of 10 items. We're going to offer X credit for the whole thing. And we step in to do that negotiation for that. Once we get that done, then in any other modifications, then we close out attorney review. So every buyer on every contract has a 5 business day attorney review for us to review the contract, for you as the buyer to let us know, do you have any concerns? Does anything need to change? Are you changing your mind, for example, which we don't actually get that very often. But if you come and say, I'm having buyer's remorse, that's the period of time where we can cancel it for you and get your earnest money back. Now, if you tell me that after the attorney review is over, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to have a whole different discussion then. But yes, we're here to make sure that during the inspection part and the attorney review period, we're getting everything buttoned up for you as the buyer. So that way, everything's going to run smoothly. During this time,
That sounds like a lot to handle in only 5 days. Is that realistic, Libby, that all of that gets taken care of in 5 days?
5 business days. Well, it's 5 business days, so we don't count the Saturdays and Sundays. But it depends. Ideally, that's like in a perfect world, we're getting everything done within 5 to 7 business days. And I've got a few files like that. We get them. The buyers looked at it. They said, we're not really asking for anything, or they're asking for something minor. Can you add some carbon monoxide detectors? That's one that I just finished up. No problem. We send it over. Seller agrees. We're done. That's the one. Usually it will take about 10 business days. And that's if the buyer's asking for more things and the seller's kind of reviewing them or maybe not answering right away. The goal during attorney review, though, is not to drag it out. Like I said, this is not litigation. This is not arbitration, mediation. The quicker we can be done with attorney review, the quicker Lisa can complete the file and get it to underwriting so we can all get to closing and you can get keys. So our goal is to narrow it down. I'm always saying, tell me your top 3. What are your deal breakers? And especially in this market, what we've seen is, you get the inspection report and someone comes back and, I had a client that gave me a list of 50. And I said, I need you to narrow this down. Tell me your top 3. He sent me back a list of 30. So
3 times 10.
Right.
Like, it's not going to fly. But luckily we do so much of that we see the same attorneys over and over again. I was able to pick up the phone, call the other attorney and say, hey, I'm still going to send you a list. It's pretty long. Because again, we have a context for this. So 30 was a lot. please don't have your seller cancel it. I'm going to talk to my buyer. You talk to your seller, and we're going to try to work this out, which we did. He narrowed it down. They increased it a little. Wasn't 50, wasn't 30, but it was somewhere, less than 50.
Sometimes I've seen, for me, my impression as a realtor is that when we go through the home inspection, I don't expect to have a lot of items on on my list. But when I have a house that does, Libby, I am one of those agents that send you
The whole list, yes.
I do. I'm like, let's
Here's
send
all
this
the
list.
things. Yeah, and that's okay. That's exactly what we're here for. Because what I say is the buyer and the seller, they've signed the contract. It's the 7.1 contract. And there's literally a whole big paragraph in there that says, we are not going to ask for anything that is minor, that is under $500, that is cosmetic, or that is at the end of its shelf life. Nobody reads that. Nobody wants to read that. But you literally signed the contract that says that. So when we get the big laundry list, then we kind of go, let's look at the big ticket items. If you're asking for, minor things, maybe the seller will fix it, but let's focus on the big stuff. Because the goal, like Lisa said, I mean, in perfect world, we are done with attorney review, 5 to 7 business days, we're moving on. The longer it drags out, honestly, from doing so many of these, the more issues can crop up. So you don't want it to drag out. If I have to go back and forth more than 2 times, and I always tell clients this, somebody's kind of not being reasonable. Either the buyers are asking for too much or the sellers are not being reasonable. And it's a personal thing for sellers, because I represent the sellers too. They'll be like, oh my God, I've lived in this house for 40 years and I've never had a problem with, the dishwasher. And they take it very personally. So we kind of try to defray the situation and kind of bring it back to the basics. Unless there's a meeting of the minds, we're not closing. So each side has to kind of give a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I agree. I just sometimes, it's just me. When I see that, not new construction, but rehab
Newer,
home or whatever, I'm kind of like, we shouldn't have these issues. We should, you're saying rehab.
No, that's true though, because, and a lot of times those things are for new construction, it's going to be under warranty. So you'll have the 1-year warranty, but that's absolutely true. And that's why it helps. Each file is different, because say you had a full gut rehab, it should be, pretty tight. You shouldn't have like trim that's falling off. You shouldn't have fans that don't work. Are those minor items? They are technically, but that's where we kind of step out of the box and say, well, look, this buyer gave over asking price. We did this all the time last summer and even the summer before, because the market was so busy. Look, they gave over asking price. All the fans should be working, and we should have carbon monoxide detectors. So that is something that we do want, versus if they're buying as is, or it's a distressed house, or we had a lot of empty nesters that were selling. So they hadn't really done much to the house for years. It kind of is what it is. So you should bring it up. I mean, we always appreciate that. And then we'll narrow it down.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, Libby? You've used that term a couple of times now.
Which one?
As is. So what does that mean? Yeah.
So,
what does that mean if somebody's buying a house that's as is?
Great question. You are buying the property as you have seen it. So if there are issues in the property, you're buying it with those issues. You're not going to be asking for any additional inspection items. However, you're not getting the title as is. The title still has to be cleared by the seller's attorney. So that way, everything on the title, mortgages, liens, water bills, all of that needs to be paid off. But the physical property itself, you're getting it the way it is. So sometimes it'll be an as is offer that's accepted, but then and you should do an inspection. So I want to be super clear on this. On all as is properties, a buyer should do the inspection. Why? Because you're buying it. So you need to know what's going on with it. Maybe there's too many as is issues. I've totally had that. Or you're just going to know so you can plan for the future. But what we'll get is an as is, and then the buyer comes back and says, well, now I want these 10 items fixed. Those are the contracts that cancel. Because your contract, because it's as is. And we try to salvage it. There's little things we can do, but as is means you're putting an offer in and you're buying it the way it is.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like you said, Libby, I always say, hey, we need to still do an inspection
Mm-hmm.
so you can know exactly what's happening with this house, because maybe the inspector might discover something that's bigger than
Absolutely. Yeah.
than you want
Yeah.
to deal with.
Absolutely. You might
Yeah.
look at a distressed house and think, oh yeah, I can fix the walls and change out the appliances. And then the inspector gets in and then, there's radon, mold, lead, all sorts of things that are much bigger and much costlier. So that might not be the house for you or the investment for you. So yeah, absolutely. Always
Yeah.
do the inspection.
Yeah. So, another thing I want to discuss, which I always, as far as lenders, and this might not be a big deal, but like Lisa was saying,
Mm-hmm.
5 days is not a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've seen Libby's office do is they make sure that they meet those deadlines or they extend. Do you
Extend.
all
Yes.
send them right? And get everybody to sign, because when you don't have attorney, you could probably miss those dates very easily. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you miss that attorney review period, that 5 days, and you're in another state, or you don't do anything with it,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. Like,
That's it. Yeah, you don't have much recourse unless the seller agrees to let you open it. So our whole industry, for me, revolves around deadlines, and we keep track of all of those. When's the closing date? We'll extend it. When are we
Yes, you
mortgage
do.
commitment? Yeah, that's like our whole world. we have the calendar. We have a backup calendar. My two
Right.
Carmen and Teresa, they do a
yeah,
wonderful job. Like that.
Yeah, we always get emails.
Right.
Fund review is about to be over.
Right.
Finance contingency is about to be up. I need to
Right.
clinic.
This is about it. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the downside is if you miss a deadline, you've waived it. So if you didn't ask for the stuff in the inspection and you missed the attorney review, we can't go back and ask for it. And we
right,
recently received a contract where it was way after the deadline by the time we got involved. And then you're kind of begging the other side, please, please, please let us, let us make a modification. And if they're like, no, we're not, it's it.
right. So it's very important as a realtor that I get the contract to Libby's office right away, really within
Yes.
the 24 hours, because 2 days after that, you're turning over your earnest money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, your earnest money is refundable until after the attorney review period.
That's right.
Right. So then after that, there's, maybe Lisa might deny you, but that's the only way you could get it back.
That's
But we don't
that's
talk about
exactly it.
denial.
Yes.
Right.
So
Oh,
yes, if
my.
things don't work out, and you do get a denial, then there's a provision in the contract, and we keep track of that too, so we can ask for your earnest money to be refunded to you. But if there is no, if we miss that deadline, for example, then it's like full steam ahead. You're moving forward, and if you can't get the loan and we miss the deadline, then you're not getting the earnest money back. So
Yeah.
deadlines are super important, and we try to take all that pressure off the buyers. You have enough to do. Like you're working with Lisa to get all the documents in. So we worry about all the extensions, and we'll send out routine extensions as needed.
Yeah.
And Dion's really good. Like you'll always send us the contract ahead of time. We'll get it, and we're up and rolling within a day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I tried to do that. But I
Yes.
had one. I did have one. I had a transaction coordinator that didn't get it.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Sometimes it's important to make sure everybody understands these are like really important deadlines.
Right.
right,
We're driven by dates.
right.
Right.
She's no longer with
Yeah.
us.
So we kind of make sure that everything's moving ahead. And then once Lisa gives us the green light and says, okay, we have a clear to close, then our office will schedule. We're in charge of getting the closing scheduled. And then either I or one of our other attorneys will come to the closing and actually sit there with the closing to review all the documents, everything for your loan, everything from the title company, and then everything from the seller's attorney. The important stuff being the deed. We want to make sure that it's in the right name, that it's vested. It's called vesting, how it's going to be recorded. So that all those little legalities that, are very mundane sometimes and boring, but they are important because we want to make sure when you buy the house, it's in your name the way it should be. And then there aren't going to be any, skeletons coming out of the closet or any liens that pop out.
Yeah. So someone asked a question for you. It said, Libby, how do you add your spouse to a deed after purchase?
Sure. So that's a great question. So spouses in Illinois have what's called homestead rights. So a lot of times we'll have one spouse, whichever spouse qualifies more, will actually apply for the mortgage. The other spouse automatically will have homestead rights to that house, as long as that's the marital home or the homestead home. Now, if you want to do it formally, you can quit claim your spouse back onto the deed. So if it's in Mr. Jones's name, we can add Mrs. Jones on there afterwards. But generally, you don't need to because, like I said, in Illinois, you have homestead rights. So the house automatically, the spouse has rights to it. So if something happens to Mr. Jones, it would go to Mrs. Jones anyway as the spouse.
Can
But
you
you
do
can't quit
that?
claim.
Can you do the quick claim and stuff if you have a mortgage on the house?
Technically, you should be requesting permission from the lender to make sure the lender is okay with doing a quit claim deed if the spouse wasn't already on the mortgage and the deed. So
and also, just so you guys know too, we can do it where we add the spouse on it's called a non-borrowing spouse. They can go onto the title without being on the mortgage. So if this question seems like it's, if they missed it, if they didn't take part in the transaction at all, then there's absolutely a way to still do it after the close of the purchase of the home. But at the end of the transaction, before we go to closing, that's usually one of the things that I help with the closing department, is that if we have, a married person, and if they want their spouse, not spice, maybe they're spicy, but if they want their spouse on title, then that is something where we can add them just on title without them being on the mortgage too.
Right. Okay. And so they did do a follow-up. Is that the same in Indiana?
In Indiana, yes. So that is the same in Indiana as well. You can either quit claim the spouse on, but you also do have homestead rights.
Okay.
Yeah, onto that. That's a good question.
All right. Any other questions, guys? Have a few more minutes, but
2 more, Dion. And before we end, we have to talk about tomorrow. So
yes, that'll be so fun.
Yes.
Super exciting.
We are so excited. We're all going to be in the room together. No,
right. In real life.
In real life, right. So my team is hosting our launch soiree. We're we started in December. It's myself and 3 other young ladies that are actually now joined together in Allure Dream Homes, and we are so excited to be hosting our event tomorrow. It's going to be at North and Maple, 6:00 p.m. You can register. We still have a few spaces available, so you can see that in the Water Cooler Wednesday Facebook group or in my Facebook group, Lisa's page. We might look. I'll tag Libby, and I think I did. I don't know if I tagged you or not. But
I did share it though on my Facebook page too.
Right. So you definitely could come out, join us, see us in person. We are so excited to see you guys. We see you all through this service. You see us, but we'd like to see you too. So
I just want to know, is it going to be karaoke? Are we doing? That's all I want to know.
No, we're gonna have music.
No,
we're gonna have music. Karaoke. Oh no!
I was gonna come and do my Tina Turner.
Okay.
You got a whole routine ready already.
Well, you'll have the band there, so if you decide to pick up the mic, it's on you.
Let Lisa do her thing.
Right. Hey.
So come out, join us. We're excited. Thursday, the 24th of March.
Yep.
In case somebody's watching this after,
Right.
we'll be there at North and Maple and Tinley Park, and we'd love to see you there. So, all right, guys, had a great time. Libby,
Thanks.
we enjoy you always coming out to see us.
Oh,
So,
thank you. I enjoy it too. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
yeah.
Us too. Thanks, Libby.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Everybody
See
have a
you.
good night.
Good night.